False start.
I just bluffed that up. Bluffed it up? Fuck that intro up. Sorry. I usually do that anyway.
Yeah, no worries.
For everyone who's listening, welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show.
This is the IAMKAYPEE podcast, if you didn't know by the name. And today I've got a returning guest on, Smithy, or Scott Smith.
Smithy's fine.
One half of the Jammin' Boys.
Jamming, yes, indeed.
How is Kieran, actually? Because he just had 2 babies himself.
Well, he did. Yeah, he's doing really well. They look healthy. Yeah, he's taken to fatherhood like you'd imagine a stellar gentleman like that would.
It's kind of weird, though. Like, I think I've talked about this before, but my age group is like everyone's starting to do this now, is starting to have kids, and
exactly.
And you're starting to see the people that are probably never going to have kids, you know.
Hey.
Not you, obviously.
Not me.
Just as like a choice, you know.
Well, your age is with me, aren't you? I'm 30.
I'm 32. Wow.
32,
I'm older than you.
Wow, jeez.
Don't like it, though.
So this is my trick. I was thinking about this last night. This is my trick. I made friends with people like 4 or 5 years older than me. So I've got a bit of leeway, you know. I don't have to...
Yeah, like I always just assumed that you were like the same age as me, actually.
I've always looked older. But yeah.
But we all hung about in the same sort of group.
Yeah, roughly.
And I guess we all just assumed that each other was the same age.
Yeah. Dundee's not a big place.
It is not, but there's plenty of colourful people in there.
Indeed, enough. Certainly. They've all gone on to do beautiful and great things like this podcast.
Yeah, so he's got like twins. That's like an instant family as well.
It's identical girls. So,
wow. That's going to be terrible when you get older.
Oh, you never know.
Do you think he'll have... I don't know why I'm asking you, but do you think he'll have more more kids? Or do you think 2's enough in one back?
No idea.
Yeah.
I think Kieran will do what him and Megan want to do.
If you're listening, Kieran,
yeah, I'm sure he is.
The kids are looking great and keeping you up as well.
Exactly. No, he said something really interesting. He says, shout out to all the shitty dads out there that don't do fucking anything, because I'm doing just what I meant to and feel like a fucking superhero. So he puts a good spin on stuff.
He doesn't seem like he would be neglecting his duties as a dad.
Definitely not. No.
And there's a lot that I saw something the other day on Facebook, and it was being called an Instagram dad. Not me, but like someone I know who has a child, and someone in their local town called them just an Instagram dad. I'm not sure what that means. I guess it's just you put pictures up and videos just to make it seem like you're a father, but not really.
Oh, I guess it is. If it's making it in some way kind of aspirational to be a good father, or at least just present, I guess that's a good.
At the expense of your own kids, maybe.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a good message to send people, I think. It's a message some could take on board, I'd imagine.
But it's a strange look I've gotten before when it comes to kids, because I don't really see myself having kids.
No, me neither.
Or at this point, you know, at least, you know, in the next sort of 10 years. But then, you know, is it fair to have a kid and then you're old?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I've never really been in the position where kids are really on the table. And well, you know, I've never been in I've only been in a few long-term relationships, and even then, kids weren't really being discussed. So
I just meant watch your phrasing. That's all.
What do you mean?
You said kids on the table.
No, metaphor. Metaphor. But no, we're not chatting about that every fucking time.
It's you that brings it up, to be honest.
I've listened back. No, I've listened back to the podcast. No, it isn't. But no, it's I don't know. It's just I'm not. 4 or 5 years ago, yeah, you would have caught me saying never. I don't want them, but I'm not closed off. I've decided that's my kind of not so much New Year's resolution, but my new position is to not say no in advance of all the information. So possibilities are open. I'm just setting a kind of, as most things, setting a kind of high bar to whether I actually would or not. But I do have a recurring nightmare that I get a chap on the door and it's like, here's your 5-year-old. So
who would it be?
Oh, no. I've thought it's not possible, but it genuinely is a recurring nightmare. Maybe I just watched too many sitcoms when I was growing up. I don't know.
But it seems like something that's sort of just completely alien to my age group. You know, obviously Kieran's taken to it. You know, he's that type of person that he'll just deal with it and he looks forward to it. But my friends and myself, and I assume yourself as well, just it's a concept that's still quite frightening, you know, but maybe you never get used to that you're going to have a child, that just when it happens you sort of rise to the occasion.
Well, it's
the warm.
Oh yeah, that's
show the guns at this point.
Exactly. It's yeah, I guess. I mean, it's in us anyway. I mean, it's very, it's not as, it's like an animal thing.
Well, we're all animals.
We're all animals, strange animals. But it's important to remember that, like, you know, it's if you end up having a kid, even though you didn't, as a male, you didn't carry it to term or whatever, there's still a nature's there, still there to fill the gaps. You're going to be naturally inclined toward fatherhood. I've always felt if you're going to be an absent dad, you're going to have to swim against the tide a little bit, whether that's morally or just people compelling you to be a part of your child's life. But
I guess there's more things to distract you now. Like if you sort of give up wanting to be a father, I think have you seen this thing? A lot of people putting forward the idea that if you want to, you can give up your rights as a dad. Yeah,
I've generally been in support of that. There needs to be a counterbalance to that equation, because I don't think anyone should ever be forced into fatherhood.
Yeah.
But I guess there would need to be a limit on it, because then you could probably find...
Because how would it be with a woman? Like, obviously, having an abortion would be that counter for a woman to say, like, I don't want to be a mother at this point.
Exactly.
The baby's under a certain sort of months old. This is just, like, a terrible time or whatever. Or they might not be with the person that it was with as well. You don't want to bring someone up in a non-stable relationship.
Exactly.
Sometimes.
But then you don't, I mean... You don't want to impose. This is what all these arguments often come down to. You don't want to impose that on the child.
Yeah,
it's not there. They didn't ask to be born. In fact, somebody's suing their parents for born.
One idiot. That means we can shoot him.
Well, this is an interesting.
If he wins, we get to kill him. That's what it is.
Well, it's an interesting point. This is something I looked into a little while ago.
What, to sue your parents?
No. Well,
screw you, Dad.
No, maybe
I'm going home.
10 years ago, maybe. So basically, people with like terminal conditions where they're essentially locked in. You know, they can't move, or they've progressively gotten worse as their life's gone on. They have taken to trying to sue the doctors that they feel didn't give their parents adequate advice.
Wow. About what?
To terminate the pregnancy. They don't feel like they should have been born. Wow. And some people have taken the extra step to go and sue their parents for the same thing, because they say, well, you should have, like, my life's been nothing but pain. Why have you...
That's crazy.
It's crazy, but it's interesting, is it not? It
seems like it would be something that's American. Like, it wouldn't be.
I think it was
the UK.
It was US or Canada. But how do you feel about it? What do you kind of?
What, the whole, like, sort of suing your parents for what you went through?
Yeah, because
it's silly. Like, it's.
But then they've had nothing. They've lived a life of nothing but pain, and
it's kind of like, I don't know. Like, it's kind of like, I feel bad for people that are born in sort of actual places where it's terrible to grow up, but they're just getting on with it. You know, that's their life. Humans are so malleable and can sort of fit into any niche and just adapt to anything. And that's just how we are. And it's like a Western thing, you know. It's to say, oh, I'm going to sue my parents because I was born. It's like,
but it's more complicated than that. I mean, this person that's suing his parents because he was born, I don't know the intricacies of that.
I think he's just doing it because he can. Do you remember that movie, or it might have been based on something that was real? It was the kid that divorced his parents. You know,
that happened. Macaulay Culkin did that. Mickey Rooney did that.
Okay, yeah. And it was like, just because you can, I think they just do it. You know, it doesn't seem to be based on anything.
Well, I think Macaulay Culkin did it because his parents were mismanaging his finances. In fact, I think there's actually legislation around Mickey Rooney. That's why I brought him up, because Mickey Rooney was
he divorced his parents. He looks like he divorced his parents. He's got a face of someone that grew up just without any parents.
Pretty sure he's dead.
What, Mickey Rooney?
Mickey Rooney, not Mickey. Not the wrestler.
The wrestler.
No, Mickey.
Not
Rooney.
the wrestler, but the wrestler.
Is that his name, Mickey Rooney? Am I confusing him with someone else?
Yeah, Mickey Rourke.
Yeah, you're confusing him. Yeah,
who's Mickey Rooney?
Mickey Rooney was like an old. I think he was like an old TV star. He was like he was like one of the very early child stars.
Wait a minute, was he in the movie where it was his dad was the champ?
Maybe.
And he was like crying over his dead body at the end. Spoiler if you've not seen it.
It's like 50 years old. I think
it's him.
I think he did yellow face, is what he's known for doing, like yellow face.
That's very racist.
Very racist.
You probably would not want to watch it.
Probably not, unless it was for some sort of study. Or,
I've not seen it. No. I'm just assuming that the word.
But sorry.
I'm just assuming by the name Yellowface it is like of its time.
It's as racist as it sounds. It was probably pretty racist back then. But there was actually an act, if I'm not mistaken. This might be urban legend. I'm pretty sure there's an act that says that a certain amount of money has to be set aside for child actors so their parents can't steal it all. Because I'm pretty sure his parents just do all the money.
It seems like it's kind of like a myth that maybe. I mean, I'm not sure.
Well, I'm pretty sure there's a
Okay.
rule.
I love urban legends like that you rise
pretty
up.
much. Exactly. Yeah.
The guy I had on from Rebel City was telling me on the first time he was on that Jason Lee, his dad was Stan Lee, and that they got they stopped speaking to each other because Jason Lee was in Scientologist. That's brilliant. And he was like believed this for years, and he was telling everyone that this was like a legit fact. So all his little like group of friends, and then he told me on the podcast, and we kind of like looked it up, and it was like no.
I do the same joke. I do the same joke with Steven Seagal and Katie Seagal.
What is it like that? He's his dad.
They're brother and sister. They just don't speak. And I was like, oh, really? Oh yeah, actually, I think I heard that. He fucking didn't. I just made it up.
Probably a better actor than Mr. Seagal.
Probably. I mean, is he even an actor these days?
No, he's a cultural
yes, indeed.
phenomenon.
I always laugh at that story of Gene LaBelle.
Yeah. And he shit himself.
I'd pay good money to hear Gene LaBelle tell that story.
He's one of these people, not Gene LaBelle, obviously, because Gene LaBelle is a legit judo player, a martial artist.
One of the very first televised mixed martial art bouts, I believe.
Who did he fight?
I can't remember the guy's name.
Was it not Oki and Muhammad Ali? Was that not considered one of the first televised ones?
I think, yeah, but Gene LaBelle's like, this is like black and white.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Like one of those ones. But because there's a book I've made, I think I've mentioned it maybe every time I've been on this podcast.
Okay.
Say Uncle by Jake Shannon. Gene LaBelle's mentioned a lot in there.
Right.
It's all about the history of catch wrestling. And he says he was one of the few people that he knew of early on that cross-trained judo, boxing, and wrestling. He was one of the few guys that had like a striking discipline and a grappling discipline. So that's probably why I lean towards.
It'd be great if that happened on camera and somewhere, like locked in someone's cellar, they have the video footage of Gene LaBelle fighting Steven Seagal.
He gets a stipend every month from the Seagal estate.
He's so weird. Like, he's just how he thinks that he can say the things that he does and get away with it now, because there's social media and all these aspects. When he was up and coming in Japan, supposedly, there was just nothing like that, so you could bullshit your way through life.
Well, it's like he's a kind of remnant of the kind of pre-UFC fascination with martial arts. He's the kid because he's not super mystical with it, but it's still. I mean, Aikido.
It's a mystery how he thinks he invented everything, though.
A little bit, yeah. I like the idea that Anderson Silva's just too polite to say anything.
Have you seen the video of him mocking him? Because obviously Steven Seagal was trying to show him Anderson Silva some moves before his win against, was it Vitor? You know, the front kick or something like that. He showed him. He was like, we were doing Mayageres in Japan and all this, and then it cuts to like Silva like taking the piss out of him in the gym, like with all his buddies and stuff.
Oh man,
it's just crazy, but like no one will call him up on it. Like who has sat him down and been like, no, this is bullshit. You should go on I had McDojo Life on the show, and he's the guy that posts all the videos of like the fake martial arts bullshit thing, and then just like it became famous through Joe Rogan actually. And it'd be great to go on that show.
Like. Well, keep in mind, Steven Seagal's still like 6'5" or something. He's still a big dude.
And he's also like 8 foot wide now because he's just getting bigger. Have you seen him when he's doing like judo? He always keeps like a massive, I think it's like a sort of towel in his gi, so it makes him look even bigger because he's just sweating profusely.
That makes sense. Yeah, judo gis are fucking heavy.
I'm surprised he's not done anything with his face either. Because, you know, he's done his hair, and there's a tendency of... What do you mean?
I don't see many wrinkles on that forehead. It's pretty fucking stiff to me, you know.
That's because he keeps the shades on. He never has to look at the sun and screw his face up.
Well, he's always screwing his face up. He's always got that kind of...
mystical...
squint,
And he's like... His movies are even stranger. Like, he's just went from, like, a white guy... Japanese sort of, and then he went to like black at one point, and then he was Native American like in the early 2000s.
Have you ever seen his cop show?
No.
It is my favorite thing in the fucking world.
Is that the one? Because he's in
New Orleans, and
because he's like a sheriff of some like sort of southern place, is he not?
He thinks he's a no, he tags along with the police department. I think he is like an official member of the police, but he tags along with the camera crew. And
so he's like a volunteer, but like a sort of trained one.
But you know how like Dog the Bounty Hunter kind of affects that kind of Hawaiian accent. He calls people brudda.
Hey, bruh. Hey, blood.
Imagine that, but Steven Seagal tried to be from New Orleans. It's fucking
I love people when they do that. They adopt those accents. Like, is it Denzi McKern?
Mackenzie Dern, yeah.
I got the name wrong. Yeah, the BJJ girl that went into UFC, and she just like wherever she goes, she's like a Southern California girl. But when she goes to Brazil,
she's half Brazilian, I think. But I love how on the MMA subreddit they now measure how overweight overweight somebody is on weight by Derns. So
yeah, because she was really overweight the last time.
Yeah, she came in. I think she was meant to be. I want to say featherweight, and I think she came in somewhere
like 8 pounds over.
Yeah,
or
it was
something?
like early 50s. She came in, which is cheating.
She has to go up.
Yeah, well, there's no up. I don't think there is an up. I think that's the problem. I think she's 145, and she came in overweight for that. No, maybe not. Maybe she's 135.
Yeah, there is no lightweight, isn't there?
And there's no lightweight for women. No.
Oh, shit.
There's barely any 145 fighters. So
yeah, there's only
it's
Cyborg.
It's 115, 125, 135, 145.
Yeah.
Gabby Garcia. Yeah, Gabby.
She's not in the UFC. She'll just fight in Japan all her days. Did you see when she fought that old Japanese woman?
Yeah, she
That
did.
was so sad.
What one? She's done it more than once.
They should do it like to even out a little bit because Gabby's like a monster. She's completely on all the steroids. She's eating HGH as well. Just bottles of it.
Allegedly.
No, I've seen her. And yeah, they should just even out a little bit by just letting her fight multiple old Japanese women. They might just have a little
2-on-1.
Yeah. No, like it'd have to be 4 at least.
Maybe. A gauntlet.
Because she's just a monster. Why? Like, it's kind of to me, it's the same as when they let Liddell fight. What's his face?
Yeah.
What's his name?
Tito.
Hunting. Yeah, the Tito.
Yeah.
Like, someone should have saw fucking Liddell hitting the bags and be like, should never go through. And it's the same with Gabby Garcia. Like, she's just smashing these old women, and the Japanese are just like lapping it up. They love that sort of thing.
I remember bringing up the Chuck Liddell fight with you and Kieran in our group chat. I said, did either you guys watch it? And you were both like, no. Have you seen it yet?
I did watch it.
Yeah,
I swore that I wouldn't.
Bad.
I didn't want to see it. I knew the outcome, but I was like, I don't want to watch it. But just like curiosity got the better of me, so I just watched it. And I kind of skipped through all the bits of it, and it was just bad.
Like when I started watching MMA, it was way after Chuck Liddell's prime. I mean, he was just beginning the downfall when I got into MMA, so I was never really there for the major moments. But even then, it just makes me sad. I mean, I've watched it twice, and everything about it makes me sad. I'm going to say I think Tito was non-sober for that fight. I don't know why he looks.
In what way? You think he was on like alcohol?
Drinking maybe. I'm not too sure. Something like that. He just looks something off about it.
Yeah.
And the whole fight's just really just
it was weird.
sad. I don't want to see it again. But did Tito not recently lose to Liam McGeary?
Yeah.
Which is quite funny because I remember him being on Joe Rogan years and years ago, and he was saying he has the perfect triangle counter. Never getting caught in a triangle. And Joe was like, would it work on Fabrici or Werdum? And he's like, it works on Fabrici. It doesn't work on Liam McGeary when he does it upside down.
That's crazy.
Which is good,
yeah, like there's been some weird ones like that in Bellator as well. I think the sort of the heavyweight Grand Prix. That was a bit of a weird one as well.
That was pretty good.
Yeah.
Bader versus Fader went.
Bader and Fader.
Went kind of how I thought it would go. I'm interested. I mean, I'd be interested to see Czech Congo, Ryan Bader, I guess. But I don't think that's going to be a very entertaining fight.
No.
Like Ryan Bader does have good fights against guys he can beat.
Yeah.
But then you have fights like the one with Phil Davis, which
that was tough to watch.
That's one of the very few fights I've turned off.
Really?
And just looked up the result.
Shit.
I just couldn't. I was like, I'm not staying up for this. That's what gets me now. I find it difficult to stay awake for UFCs now.
Really. I know, like they have to do something. Even when they're in a different country, they usually put them on a bit later, so the Americans can watch it.
It was like Hendo Bisping 2.
Yeah.
Or Bisping Hendo 2, let's be honest. And that was like in the UK, but the main event didn't start till like 2 a.m. here.
Yeah.
Because they account for the.
How would they get around it though? Like, I mean, would they have to have more events and put them on in multiple countries? But then would that dilute the whole sort of card? It's just
like on one hand, I want better cards in Europe and the UK in general. On the other hand, I don't want to be paying for pay-per-views.
No.
So
it's kind of good. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean,
so hard not to get spoilers on the Sunday. Usually,
much,
like I have to stay off Facebook completely,
me too,
or Instagram, because I'll just scroll through and it'll be a picture of someone with their hand up, and I'm like, fuck's sake.
And Still is the one. I mean, I used to get really annoyed about The Ultimate Fighter when I used to watch that, because that's even worse, because it's, you know, it doesn't get shown in the UK till the day after, so you would see, you know, the official account would be even saying stuff.
Did you watch the fights at the weekend?
I haven't seen the ones just past. I didn't watch the event, but I've seen the Cain Velasquez Ngannou fight.
Wow. Didn't think it was going to be as decisive as that. But he's been out too long. Should he still be in the cage, really? You know, should he face something that is as Ngannou is as high level as he is, and dangerous?
He said going in, if he wasn't impressed with his own performance, he wasn't going to retire. He was going to retire. Shit. And he said himself that I think he said he let himself down, or he beat himself.
How come?
I didn't read too much into it. That's just what he said. That's just what he tweeted. But I haven't watched it. I quite like that fight. Ngannou has decent fight IQ on his feet.
Once he gets on his back, it's just annoying for someone that's so amazing standing up. Like it'd be hard to beat him. You'd have to be very technical to beat Ngannou on the feet, and be able to take some shots. And then just when he gets on his back, he's fucked.
But it takes a long time to get comfortable on your back and get comfortable with grappling, you know.
But will it ever happen, though?
Probably not. But I mean, it's heavyweight. I mean, the skill level isn't exactly the same. And then when it is, I mean, that's the reason why Verdun was so impressive, because he was good on the feet and good off his back. It's just...
And he was quite, like, nifty on his feet as well. Indeed, you know, when he came in with that flying side kick.
Yeah, flying side kick.
Kicked the guy in the face.
He did the kip up into body kick on Travis Brown. He's like very athletic.
He's back in is it Bellator now? Is he back in, or is he still in the UFC?
He has to leave the UFC. I'm pretty sure he has to be released. I think he got popped for steroids.
Probably.
It's Brazilian.
They're born with steroids in their mouth.
Apparently, it's easy to get them. You can get them over the counter, or some are easy to get over the counter. So
there'll be like counterfeit ones, just like, you know, ones that are not as expensive. But is it this weekend? The John Jones card's on.
Oh yeah, is it late? I think so.
Is it this weekend?
How do you see that going? Do you think Anthony Smith's got a chance here?
I've been kind of watching a lot of Anthony Smith. Like I watched all his fights, all his wins. He's one of these people that if John Jones wasn't the champion, he would be champion. Like the same with Gus, the same with DC at light heavyweight. If John Jones wasn't there, all these guys would have had that, and it would have passed around a little bit. Maybe. Anthony Smith's the same. You know, he's solid, he's powerful, athletic, but Jones is just the man. Like he's that extra level. There's no way you can catch up with that.
Exactly. Do you remember the first time you saw John Jones fight?
Yes.
Yeah. I just remember thinking this guy's going to be the champion this time next year.
I think it was the fight before is it Mark Hamill? Not Mark Hamill. Is it Mark Hamill?
That Brandon Vera. He fought.
Not the one, the deaf guy.
No, Matt Hamill's the deaf guy. Yeah.
Okay. I keep thinking of the Joker. Matt Hamill, like Skywalker, like fighting John Jones.
That'd be quite funny.
It's Mark Hamill.
Mark Hamill is indeed.
That was a tough fight because obviously Matt is deaf.
Yeah.
And it was just sort of bad to see him getting elbowed like that, and then winning through, you know, John Jones getting disqualified or whatever.
Yeah, no, it's the only loss on his record.
Yeah.
No, it's not actually, because he's got there are no contests.
You think they should revoke that?
What the
no contest?
Good fucking luck.
Yeah.
I mean, there's that many fights that have been obvious fouls that just never got overturned. You know, like Anthony Johnson, Kevin Burns. Kevin Burns jabbed him in the eye.
That was bad, yeah.
Yeah, that was. I've never. That was the most. Like I remember watching that, looking at Anthony Johnson on the ground, just holding his eye, and I thought, "Fuck, I hope he's not like that." You don't want to see that.
No.
I think a lot of people have seen the IVC, the one that's in Choke, the movie Choke, where the guy, I was going to say Rin Nakai, it's not Rin Nakai, Nakao, I think the guy loses his eye because Gerard Gordeau's got his fucking fingers in it.
There's been so much of that. I think DC can be like that as well. He's a bit handy. Like he'll just put his hands out, and you can see people stepping into that because John's so long. He doesn't really come into it. But he's done it to a few people, and he has this weird style recently where he's kind of like Silva, like he has his hands out a little bit, and it's kind of like a Kido.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's something he's always done, but I feel it's something that he's.
But Jones or.
Cormier.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think he's trying to parry, like parry and go over the top or something like that. DC's like stand up's pretty good.
Oh yeah.
I think he's just very dedicated to learning techniques,
Yeah.
and it's like that whole once you understand the way broadly kind of.
It just felt a bit weird. Like I thought you're gonna get caught here somehow. Like someone, and he did. He got like kicked in the face.
But then Cormier and Ngannou could be a potential match.
I don't know. I don't think I would like to see it.
No,
I mean it would happen, I guess.
Yeah.
But I think I know the outcome. There's no because DC is just a better Kane at this point. You know, he can strike a bit better, and he's healthy, and he's been fighting continuously.
Well, I'm pretty sure Kane's knee blew out last night as well.
Oh, did you see that?
Yeah,
that happens so much. Like people like get knocked out and falling back on it. It's like, ooh.
He just. I think it's time for Kane because he's got that thing. He's got that cage around his midsection. It's like that. I had that thing. Remember we couldn't fight for a while because he had like a cage thing around his.
What?
There was like a thing he had inside of his back to stop his back from falling a bit. So that was the reason. Remember, he said he had a fight lined up, and then he mentioned in an interview that he's got this crazy thing, and then they went, "Well, you're not fucking fighting if you've got that." But I think it's time for Kane to go. Quit.
Too long.
Yeah,
like, we've been waiting on him to come back. You know, if this would have been like 3 years ago,
indeed,
it would have been great.
And he had a fucking awesome career.
Yeah.
He handed Big Nog his first proper TKO loss.
Yeah.
I remember watching that on the bus home from TV, and I woke everyone on the bus up. Oh my fucking God. I think that was the same weekend as the Strike Force brawl.
Do you know what I'm looking forward to this weekend though? Askren and
it's gonna be decent.
What's his name?
Robbie Lawler.
That's it.
That's gonna be
That's gonna be. I think this could be. Set the tone for Askren, or it's going to sort of just lead Lawler into his twilight years in the UFC.
Yeah,
I think it's good for the UFC this fight because either way it's going to show something.
Indeed, I just hope nobody fucking boos. I just hope there's no fucking boos.
What do you think's going to happen?
Robbie Lawler has good takedown defense. He's quite a good wrestler. He's always uses wrestling in reverse. But Ben Askren's going to Ben Askren. I don't think it's going to be a submission. I can see Lawler maybe winning a round, but I'd probably think it's going to be an Askren decision.
Totally. I think decision, dominant, but I just don't think that high level of competition, going in and facing that straight away, it's different from the rest of the competition that Askren's faced. You know, it's not that it's not tough. But it's different, and the positional awareness that comes with these UFC fighters is just different. Like you're not going to catch Lawler in a submission. You're just not. But he's going to wrestle fuck him. That's just the way it is.
But you never know. Could get caught coming in. You never know.
Imagine he's got a big old head as well.
Definitely.
He's quite funny. Like
he's very funny.
I warmed up to him like after. I think it was just before he went on Joe Rogan. Like I was watching a lot of stuff leading up to it. And just I was warming up to him, and then it just cemented it after he was on that show. Yeah. And he's funny, he's hilarious.
He's very switched on.
His tweets are amazing. Yeah. Like he's very switched on.
He's very smart.
And he's proper grammar and all that. Like he's not like tweeting.
Doesn't take a lot of head trauma. That's
exactly it.
Probably. But I'm. It's a long time coming. I think this was probably the last. But I think if it hadn't happened by now, it would be too late. Because he'd been retired for so long.
Who, Askren?
Askren, yeah. And he's had, I always go back to one fight he had. I can't remember the guy's name. It's escaping me right now. But it's a no contest on his record because the guy poked him in the eye. But
is that the Brazilian guy that just wasn't letting Askren take him down? Like for the first 2 rounds, it was like great takedown defense and reversed like in the initial.
You got him like an Uchi match.
Yeah, it was beautiful. It was a great fight. And that went to no contest because he got a finger in the eye.
And then the next fight, they were meant to have a rematch because it's like, well, this guy almost beat Ben Askren. And then the guy came in like way overweight. He was, like, before the weigh-ins, apparently, he was like stuffing his face.
I think that guy was just so... He's known for being so physically strong. And he kept letting Askren take the single leg. And then he just worked from there, which was great. So great stuff. And then he was like using his force to throw him as well. Just beautiful, beautiful sort of fight. But then it just ended the way it did.
Exactly.
And then he can't replicate it because he's eating all the fucking Twinkies or whatever.
A little bit, self-destruct. But I don't think there's very little quit in Robbie Lawler. So I don't think Ben Askren's going to beat him. I think it's going to have to be a constant pressure game throughout the whole.
And it could be the point where his body quits now. You know how he's had so many just grinding fights like back to back when he fought the Red King.
Rory McDonald.
Yeah,
that was never been the same.
Fucking brilliant fight, but at the same time, he's never been the same, and it could sort of be a sort of downward degradation of his body.
But he's had a lot of time off though, so
yeah,
could have been the recovery he needs.
True.
That's one thing Robbie Lawler's good at. I think Robbie Lawler's good because he knows his body, and I think that's oversaid. It's kind of a cliche, but he stopped sparring. And he's not the smartest. He's not the sharpest knife in the drawer. But he stopped sparring before it was kind of the in thing to do because he was like, I know how to fight.
Yeah. There was a group of fighters that stopped sparring. He said he knows how to fight. But I think, you know, whether that it'll work for him. That you know, there's a lot of people that need that sort of speed and timing when you're fighting, especially lighter weights. You know, you got to be able to rack people coming in at you at speed. But yeah.
I'm saying 29-28. 29-28. Askren.
Do you know who else is on that card?
No. I'm bad for keeping an eye on cards these days. I'm too busy watching old fights. Just got since I got a fight pass, it's all I do.
How much is it?
I can't remember. It's like I want to say. I think it's pretty cheap. It's like 10 or 10.
It's like cheaper than Netflix.
Yeah, definitely. Still have both.
So yeah, like just to move on from the UFC, we were sort of talking over the weekend about we're going to speak on this episode, and obviously this thing that's came up over the last week is this young girl. I don't know her name actually.
Something Begum.
Okay. Where she's from the UK, but is she like what background is she? I guess.
No idea.
So you know, for all intents and purposes, she's from the UK. She left the UK when she was 15 to join ISIS.
From what I've read, she met up with a Dutch national,
right,
and became a couple with him, and then they've had a kid. She had the kid very recently, the past couple of days.
Supposedly she had 2 kids before this that all died. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So she left when she was 15, threw her passport away, a UK passport, and went to, where was it, like Syria or something like that?
Yeah.
To join ISIS, and you know, and the whole controversy this week, obviously everyone's probably heard about it, is she wants to come back. You know, she's 19 now, and just like I've heard a lot of commentary on the radio too, and BBC Scotland, and just like the sort of some of the things that they're saying about this girl is just terrible. You know, it's like, okay, I get it. You know, she's left the country, given up her passport, thrown it away to start having kids, but it's being underage.
Probably of age there, to be honest with you. It's
probably, yeah.
I don't know what the Sharia for the legal age is.
I'm not sure, because there's the whole thing with Muhammad, Muhammad being, you know, I don't want to get too into this, but there are instances of Muhammad, you know, being with younger girls, very young girls.
Aisha, 8 or 6 or 8 or something.
I think it was 6, and then it consummated at 11 or something like that. So I think, who knows what it is in sort of like real world terms, what the age is. I don't think there even maybe is a limit in a lot of these places where it's sort of no rules. But she left at 15, you know, and the sort of just the fucking hate that people are spewing on the radio, I've heard, and online, just towards this young girl at the time who'd left, you know, at 15. This is the big issue. She was 15 when she left.
But I don't know, and I think people gravitate towards anger because it's quite a complicated thing to get your head around. And I think the path of least resistance is to just be angry about it. I think me and you are kind of both the same. We don't necessarily have that much of a kind of British identity, so it doesn't feel like a big kind of slap in the face. I mean, for one, the British government can't take away her passport because she's not a dual national. So I think
she can't be stateless.
She can't be stateless. So that, you know, their hands are tied in that respect. Whether they take them back, they take her back. I'm in two minds of it. I mean, she said herself that, well, her take on it is that she radicalized herself.
Right.
But that makes me question, to what extent can one radicalize oneself, you know? Like how much of it is you and how much of it is, like, what are the factors around there, you know?
I mean, you got to wonder what her surroundings were. You know,
exactly.
if her parents were involved with her at all. You know, it's a scary thing to think that a kid can just up and leave at 15, get on a flight, and then start having babies for an organisation that is notoriously terrible in the things they do. And a lot of people were talking about how she was sort of nonchalantly talking about seeing beheaded people.
She said that she didn't mind seeing stuff like that, and she just felt as though it was.
But she's the way I interpret it. Sorry, just like she's 15. You know, again, you're so malleable at that age. Plus, when it's something that's written in the way that the sort of the Quran, the Quran, so not Quran, the Quran, like
You're
it's
just
in
asking for fucking trouble, dude.
the way she interpreted it was in writing, and she didn't think there was anything wrong with it, you know.
Yeah.
And I guess anyone, it's like we're not allowed to get into this cult territory because it's seen as a religion, and some aspects of it are culty, like parts of Christianity are culty.
Yeah, well, I mean the ISIS version, the name of it escapes me right now. I don't want to say the type of Islam I think it is, because I wouldn't want to inadvertently insult somebody that follows that type of Islam in case I've got it wrong. But my understanding of it is their version of Islam is that there are 14 like not messengers from God, but 14 people to rule the caliphate. I think
like one prophets or something.
There's not prophets.
Imams or
no, because prophet would be Muhammad. Muhammad is the last prophet. Imam is like their equivalent of like a priest, a head priest or something. But
they don't tend to not have like one person in charge.
Well, this is the caliphate, so this is like the region they want to control. And I think the rule around the person that runs it is that they can't be missing any parts of their body, because they're meant to be like I think the condition is they're meant to be soldiers.
Okay.
And the fact that if you can live his life as a soldier and not lose a finger, or I think anything short of your foreskin, if I'm honest with you, because I think but I think they have a thing that if you're whole, you must be in some way blessed. So
testament to your belief.
Exactly.
You know,
or just
and Muhammad blessing you. Yeah.
Well, Allah, I think it would be. But apparently there's a set number of them, and I think we're on the second to last or the third to last. So apocalypse is around the corner, apparently.
Okay.
According to them. But yeah. So, but I mean, back to the Ms. Begum. I feel for her, because obviously everyone's made a fucking stupid.
And she's 19 as well. Like 4 years have passed. She's come back and she's still 19.
I think
I don't have to reiterate how fucking stupid everyone was at that age. You know, even still at 19, I was just a complete like moron. So just to be in that position, it's an extreme position to be in, but at the same time, she's still a teenager, and she's just been brainwashed at some, and maybe it's through herself. You know, like she said, she radicalized herself, but at the same time, that is what has happened. But you can't say these things in case it's like it offends, like sort of. Yeah. And I'm not saying that directly about Islam itself. I mean, just that section of it is something that is interpreted in that way, and it's
quite obviously damaging.
Yeah.
The way because I was thinking about this on the train up here. The way I'm kind of sitting with it is, I'm kind of happy either way. I can kind of forgive the government for not allowing her back in. I can see their concerns. There are probably security concerns in place there as well.
Yeah.
I think this is just a consequence of a silly decision, and I could forgive them for just leaving her to her own devices.
Yeah.
I think that's probably going to send her back into the arms of,
that's
that
not
kind
good.
of way of thinking. It's not, but again, it's kind of is it our is it their responsibility anymore? You know.
Yeah.
It's a sticky situation, and I hope nobody else finds himself in that position anymore, because
I guess they could sort of there's a possibility that she could sort of complain to someone that it's against her sort of human rights, that someone with a passport is denied entry in somewhere, you know, and then sort of not allowed to come in, even though you're a citizen of that country. Is that sort of denying someone their rights?
Yeah, I guess it is. But I mean, there are other countries that would take her on board. I mean, you have, I don't know if he was a Canadian citizen already.
And I'm not apologising for her. Like, I'm just like playing devil's advocate on this.
There was a guy, I can't remember his. I think it's Mohammed Kader. I think his name was Canadian. He's a Canadian citizen now.
Okay. It's the guy that sort of like got sort of salt and peppery type hair.
I've actually never seen him.
Okay.
I've only heard about him, but apparently he was a militant. The Canadian Army came to rescue him because they have to. If you're injured on the battlefield, the medics have to come and rescue you.
Right. Okay.
And he blew them up, I think.
No way.
And then, but now he's a Canadian citizen. I think that's it. I might be butchering the story, getting it wrong. So I mean, what I was getting at, it's feasible that a country like Canada would
take that
offer her, citizenship. Some places are more forgiving than others. Yeah,
it's the Trudeau effect.
Unfortunately, that handsome dumbass.
The boy band, the one-man boy band.
A little bit.
Yeah, like it's a tough situation to deal with it. Like, how do you go around it? You know, you bring her back into the country and just monitor, and then sort of deprogram her from whatever.
She's going to be under surveillance for the rest of her life, no matter what she fucking does. Like,
and do you think she is a threat? Someone at that age.
I don't know enough about it to say yea or nay. I would think being embedded in the Islamic Caliphate for that long, and one being kind of sympathetic to those views, and two, still being somewhat sympathetic to those views, it doesn't give the best of impressions. I think she's probably doing herself a disservice by saying some of the things that she's saying, but it could be misreporting. Let's not pretend that the press are.
There's also like
virtue,
a percentage of people that are in the UK that are still sympathetic to that as well. Like, there's not a sort of, that does exist within the UK, and I'm sure the government is aware of it and know who it is.
Whether that's like an Islam thing or it's just an anti-state thing.
So at the same time, it's like, she's part of the UK. She has her passport, and I don't know how that situation turns out.
But but I've never met anyone that has views like that in real life. So
like it seems to be something that sort of skips Scottish people, because very few sort of people who are from different countries make it as far as Scotland. Sometimes you feel like there are a lot of Polish people that come across, Romanians and whatever that make it, but at the same time it's like it's usually London and Birmingham and all these places that has that influx first. So I never meet anyone that has that opinion. Even one of my good friends, Khalid, he's from Kuwait, and he's sort of like well traveled, but he is demographically Muslim, but he has like a very chilled out like opinion of it, and it's not the sort of same intensity that a lot of people have come across in the people in the UK. So I don't know. I've never met anyone with that opinion.
I mean, I've spoken before about the benefits that religion can bring to someone's life. I'm still of a mind. I was.
Did you see that little kid that's trying to prove? Sorry, just to interject. There was a little kid that tried to. Who's a genius by all sorts accounts, and he says he's going to try and prove Einstein and Hawking wrong by proving that God exists scientifically.
Oh yeah,
there was a whole article. He's like a living super genius, and I was like, "You're gonna, you're gonna fail."
Good luck. Fair play. You never know.
Yeah.
No. The concept.
The word God is the problem, though.
Yeah, but how do you define God?
If someone created us, does that mean that they are our God? No.
Well, something created us. Does that make that God?
No. But like, if you say you create something on a computer, like you're in Sims, does that make you God, or does that just mean that you're doing something, and that's a byproduct of what you're doing?
No, because
would you consider yourself a god to those people?
No, because the tools by which you create the world, and then the people within it, or the beings within it, are pre-designed. There are limits to it.
Yeah,
I think that the notion of God being able to create is that they could create anything.
Yeah,
and there are infinite implications. Whereas there's no console commands for life.
Well, the whole biblical one is completely out the window. From what we know, like it's just sort of obviously written by man. It's so flawed and it's contradictory. So that the word God then would only have to come to something that's universal, and at the same time, it's like you wouldn't call it God then. It would just be something that's creating.
But then, I mean, this is kind of what I was getting at earlier, and it kind of comes round. I mean, sometimes the explanation that religion gives you isn't factually accurate.
Okay.
But it still achieves a goal. It still achieves something. So the example I was going to give was I was researching something called was, which is in Islam, it's whispers.
Okay.
It's when a demon, it's called a shaitan, whispers to you in your ear.
Okay.
And the example
like
from
a jinn sort of thing.
Kind of, it's related to a jinn. I
Okay.
think it's a type of jinn. I don't know. I'm a limit.
A whiskey.
Five or six videos. But so what they were saying is like the questions that a shaitan or the waswas or the whispers that will give you will be like, you know, who created the sea, who created the air, who created the land, who created Allah.
Right.
And these are questions that you shouldn't ask yourself, you know, well, in Islam. But the example that the guy gave was like before they pray, Muslims wash, you know, they wash the ends of their body. I think they wash their fingers, their feet,
really?
the end of their face.
Okay.
I guess they generally wash before they pray. But obviously people with OCD, you can see the issue they might have, you know, they feel like they're not clean, and then that's the shaitan whispering in their ear telling them, you know, you're not clean enough to pray, brother.
Yeah.
You can't pray. And basically the video of the the video I watched about this, the guy said, you just got to say, go away, shaitan, I'm clean enough. And although OCD demonstrably is not a fucking demon whispering in your ear telling you haven't washed yourself well enough, that person still, if they exercise what that imam was saying, they're able to go and pray.
Right.
For stuff like that, I can see the value in religion in that respect.
I think,
you know,
the infrastructure and the sort of stability it offered a bunch of people throughout sort of like the Dark Ages and from medieval times and sort of before that as well. But I just think it's losing its place in the modern world.
Yeah.
You know, there's other things that are showing the same sort of togetherness. You know, we're doing it for each other as opposed to sort of thinking that we're gonna go to hell. So I think, yeah, like even just listening to the radio, like religion's still trying to adapt slightly. They're becoming more spiritual. A lot of people on the Radio Scotland or BBC Scotland they're talking about sort of spiritual elements, and then it's like, well, Jesus did this and blah blah blah, and it's like, oh, this is just still bullshit, you know.
Well, I mean, there's lessons one can learn from Jesus.
Have you been listening to Jordan Peterson?
No, I don't know if we can get onto this. There is actually a version of the Bible. I think it's the Thomas Jefferson Bible. It's called The Life and Times of Jesus of Nazareth, and it's all the shit that totally didn't happen taken out of the Bible.
Okay.
So it's all the lessons that Jesus taught. And there are some gems in there. There's the whole thing. It's actually in Islam as well. The whole thing. Your left hand shouldn't know what your right hand's doing. That whole notion.
Oh, really?
It's like when you're giving to charity.
Okay.
It's basically saying, you know, don't brag about giving to charity and stuff like that. Don't your left hand shouldn't even know that your right hand's given. That's how close you should keep it to your chest.
But those things don't exist out with our being. Like those are conclusions that we came to and writ them down. They're not things that were handed down to us. So that's stuff that's come from within.
Yeah.
Like, so people have a sort of a notion that it's sort of godly when you talk about these things, but it's just stuff that we've for years that people have talked about and then written it down, you know, and that's something that you can follow. But then when people talk about it now, I'm repeating myself, it's just, it feels like it's coming down from something, and a lot of people can reject it.
Yeah, I get you.
Or take it like it is, you know, something that's godly.
Incontrovertible.
Yeah.
Do you dislike Jordan Peterson because he is a Christian?
Darren. I know
G.
what he's doing. Like, he's of a different era as well. Like him, even though he's widely smart, you know, very smart. Such his mind's so organized as well. I get the idea that there's things to be taken from stories from the Bible, you know. But those things really apply to the masses, you know. And there's people that believe other things as well. But I don't know. Like, there is something in me when I hear him say like he is a Christian. My mind just like the trips first, you know, and it takes me a couple of seconds just to work my way through it and rationally think my way through him saying that.
Because I think people deify Jordan Peterson a little bit too much. They seem to see him as this, because he is quite centrist, you probably wouldn't be able to put him left or right. He's very in the middle. People seem to think that there's no bias there, and I think people feel sort of betrayed. But I don't know. I have this thing about Jordan Peterson. I think he explains the ways in which you are a shitty person or you're not being your best self so well that people often look for a reason to not listen to him.
Yeah.
Because every time I listen to Jordan Peterson, I'm like, oh, I do that. Oh yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
He's speaking. Thanks, Jordan. And I think a lot of people hear that stuff and they go, fuck you. I'm putting off. I just.
He's not coming up with anything new, but he'll tell you that. Like, he's just.
This is Kieran's main complaint about Jordan Peterson, is that nothing is saying new.
Yeah.
It all comes from the same kind of disproven group of psychologists, and I kind of want to.
But like the sort of stuff that he talks about in his book, like is it 12 Rules to something or another?
Life, yeah.
Those are things that people need to hear, obviously, because it makes you sort of take ownership of yourself and what you do, and take hold of your life and just go with it, and have discipline. These are things that when he says it, is completely true, and it applies to a lot of people, and people sort of just when he's saying it sort of go, shit, this is something I really need in my life. But at the same time, and like I said before, he'll say this as well, this is not new stuff he's talking about. This is stuff that he's taken from other books and other people. Not that he's plagiarizing it, he's just putting it in context for the modern world to be able to what's the word, swallow, in a sense.
Okay. But I agree with you. I've yet to hear a criticism of Jordan Peterson that's turned me off of him, or it wasn't something I was aware of, or no, that's not true, because what Kieran was saying, it was something I wasn't aware of.
But when people sort of criticize these people and say like, oh, he said that, this, that, and the next thing, like, people are not perfect. You know, he can have a bunch of left ideas, he can have a bunch of right ideas. Not that you would have far right ideas, but things that are considered that.
Well, it depends who you fucking ask, like, you know what I mean?
But it's this weird inclination that humans just have to make things black and white when the world is obviously completely nuanced. You know, it's just a beautiful mechanism that is like a clock. You know, all these working little parts, even more complicated than that. And we just want it black and white. And we do that with people. Like we say, oh, he's right, or he's left. So we don't have to think about ourselves or our lives. And obviously he's going to say some stupid stuff, like every person, and he's going to say a lot of stuff that applies to a lot of people. It's just the way the world works.
I don't know, but I don't know. I think he does a net good. Is kind of my overarching point.
Just to sort of one of the people I don't like is who's the Canadian guy that loves America.
There's fucking tons of them, dude. There's too many.
Crowder.
Stephen Crowder. Yeah, I've got my issues with Stephen Crowder.
Not a fan of him.
I listen to his content semi-regularly.
I think we've talked about this before, actually, so we're probably reiterating this.
Exactly, but
yeah,
I'll sum up what I said before. He's like a lot of conservative, and I'd say a lot of left-wing news I've watched as well. I disagree with him more than I agree with him. When I agree with him, I can't disagree with him because it's fact. But I can identify he's very clear about his biases. I'm never going to be pro-life. Never. I'm always going to be pro-choice. There's no argument that can convince me otherwise.
I take, like, I am pro-choice, but I kind of take from a few people, and when I'm saying this, that I'm pro-choice, but at the same time, you have to understand what you're doing is what it is. You know, what you're doing with your body, and you know, getting rid of this baby and whatever is what it is. It's just that is the fact. But there are loads of circumstances that call for that. You know, and
it's not something you should take pride in.
No. But it is a thing like that. You're doing what it is. You can't just close your eyes. And I don't think a lot of people don't understand what is happening. But there are people that just think, you know, it's my right, my choice. Yeah, that's true. At the same time, you have to be fully aware of what you're actually doing.
The gravity of the situation, and it's not a decision you should take lightly. But it's never a decision that you or I will ever have to make, unless medical science makes fucking
you're just going to assume my agenda all my life. Thanks a lot, Smithy.
Maybe. Yeah, possibly. But yeah, I don't know. I'm Stephen Crowder. I can identify his biases pretty well. Same with Ben Shapiro.
Did you see this? I think it was Canadian. It was a video of a guy kicking this lady who was pro-life.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, it's yeah.
Like he totally
keep your fucking hands to yourself.
I think he actually trains because he switches his legs before he quicks. He does a switch kick.
Really?
Have you never watched it?
I've watched it, but I never noticed he did a switch.
If you watch it, he's trained. Like he standing in a regular stance and then he switches before he kicks her with his back leg.
That's a fucking shame, man.
And then he kicked. I think so just for people that haven't seen it, there was an incident that was filmed, and it was a bunch of pro-lifers outside Planned Parenthood. Was it?
Yeah.
Is that what the Canadian one is?
Well, no, I don't know what I don't know what the Canadian one is. No,
it was like a sort of abortion clinic.
They have a socialised healthcare, so it's probably just that.
It's kind of the same, but there's like differences.
Oh, you live there? Sorry, like
speaking
of school.
No, I don't know.
You had perfect health the whole time you were there.
I had to pay to get what was it I caught in the showers? I'm gonna tell people this one. It was like like I had to get cream on in between my toes because I was getting like a rat. Yeah, athlete's foot. Never got it when I was over in Scotland. Went to Canada. I was in the showers and I was wearing my flip flops. Everyone was like, wear flip flops when you're in the shower, and I was like, and then I got it. So I had to pay for the cream, and it cost me like $50 for this cream. Where was I going with this? Oh yeah, the weird guy that kicked this lady. So supposedly the background was he was going around scribbling on all these pro-lifers' backs because they were there protesting against it, and he was counter-protesting the abortion clinic, and he sort of scribbled over this lady's sign as well. So this lady walked up to him filming it, was like, "You're vandalizing all this stuff," and he's like, if I was a 14-year-old girl and I got raped, should I have the choice to abort my baby or not? And he's like this, like putting his thumb up and down. And she's like, it doesn't matter, like, that life is a life. And then he kicks.
So they're both wrong.
Kicks her fucking like, I mean, her phone out her hand, but ends up kicking her in the face as well.
Yeah, it's fucking horrible. I mean, I don't care where you're coming from on the political spectrum. I think if you take a political conversation or argument to violence, I'm automatically not on your side.
Yeah.
Some things are above politics. Something I'm starting to realize, and people just punching people because they disagree with them.
It's not.
I don't give a fuck whether I agree with you or not. It's not a way to conduct yourself.
It's entitlement as well. Like, even though the left thinks the extreme left thinks they can do it because they are protecting and doing good things, which is completely subjective. Or subjective. Yeah, sorry, I get those ones mixed up. And so going around when you're kicking people just because you think they're right wing is it's nonsense.
Exactly.
Like, it's just common courtesy to someone else. Like, you shouldn't. It doesn't matter. There's this whole idea now that if you disagree with someone, they're your mortal enemy. Yeah. And it's just not true.
Exactly. I mean, I like disagreeing with people. And I'm going to disagree with most people because
it's because you have white privilege. You're comfortable to disagree.
Male privilege.
If you disagree, if you were black, you wouldn't have a job.
That's a good point. Well, not from America. They've got record low unemployment.
I'm joking.
No. It's interesting.
I like to catch people out when they
a little bit
talk nonsense in regards to gender.
What's your excuse? But no, I just political violence. Good point. Political violence is fucking.
Yeah, it's just. I mean,
can't stand it.
I guess if it's an oppressive regime, but then we're if you it's also relative. If you think that's how you're being treated, you're going to act that way. And a lot of people, rightly so, have acted that way in the past. Yeah. And they've done it, and they've sort of did it to bring on their country and whatever. But there's a lot of people, obviously, now they're doing these things, and they're not in the right. But relatively, they think that they're being done in the same way that these people in the past had been wronged. So it's like, how do you say that to someone? Yeah.
I don't know. I just bring, whenever this comes up, I always bring myself back to the kind of most politically intense situation I'd been in, which was the Scottish referendum.
Oh yeah.
Because I was working in the city centre the night of, and I, walked past George Square, and I was on. I didn't like seeing people obviously with the Union Jack and fucking England flags waving shit like that.
Did you get triggered?
A little bit. A little bit. I'll be honest with you, but I mean, that was before the kind of free speech debate was really widely discussed, and I guess I'm okay with free speech. But
that's tied into football as well in Glasgow. Would it be? Like there would have been a 100%, lot. 100%.
Yeah. Because Glasgow was one of the two. Glasgow and Dundee, by the way. The two most yes kind of places. But yeah, that one thing I really turned my stomach was seeing people fighting, and it's like, fuck.
There's any excuse though for a fight.
And seeing people tearing down the Saltire and stamping on it, but that's maybe just
what?
I don't know. Yeah.
Who would that have been? I mean, I don't really.
I can tell you what team they supported. No, I'm only joking. Half of the city I live in.
It's a weird sort of statement to make. Like I when you hear things like that initially, you're like sort of your knee-jerk reaction is to be like, oh fuck, why would someone do that? And at the same time, it's it's only a piece of cloth. But there's a lot of people that have died for that, and there's a lot of people that have done wrong for that as well. Like Scotland was heavily involved in the slave trade.
To what extent? Because I've had a lot of conflicting information on this. Transport, I
think that's it. I think mainly it was dictated. Not that Scotland was not culpable. But I think England put all the transport and all the slaves up to Scotland, and then they took off from there. I think. I'm not sure. Talking at mass, but good to have someone on actually and talk about it. I'm trying to get what's his name, that Oliver guy that did the Celts, the Romans.
All right, okay.
What's his name again? Oliver something or another. You know, the long-haired Scottish guy. Yeah. He's brilliant. Yeah. But he stays quite close, so I'll give him a message, see if he'll come on.
Give him a shout.
So he'll clear all that up.
Of course. Because I'd be interested, because this is something me and my dad had a bit of a discussion about. Because I know we were involved in the transport, but I mean...
I think there was a show on the BBC that actually went in depth on it. I'm not sure.
So I'll be fair and balanced, obviously.
Obviously, yeah. So you could have a look at that, but it is something that I'm interested to hear what level of involvement, because a lot of people are sort of very patriotic in Scotland and won't let you talk about something as negative as slavery going on in Scotland. Exactly. Usually we feel like the royal we, feel like we've been subjected to sort of tyranny and the English, so we feel that we can never do something like that. We're innovators. We're always at the front of civilizations, pushing for technology. Indeed. But when something like this comes up, like Scotland could have been and could have heavily been involved in the slave trade. Do you know what era it was? Like,
what do you mean, what era?
Because it extends quite a long period, the slave trade. Like, is it Indian slaves or black slaves?
I'm not too sure, to be honest.
The Americas, I think.
I'm ignorant on the issue. I'm also ignorant on this is the white nationalist dog whistling section of the show.
Oh, okay.
White and Scottish and Irish indentured servants,
right?
In the colonies in the United States. That's also something that's really interested me.
Yeah, because you always hear there's more information about the Irish and how they were treated in these places. You don't really hear much about Scotland, and I'm not sure if that's because it wasn't really a thing, or I don't know what you've heard, or it just wasn't really sort of recorded. Like, we're all Gaelic or Gaelic at that point, so
I've heard a guy Jim Goad speak a lot about this, but I never know how to take. I've heard a lot of bad people say a lot of good things about Jim Goad, and that always makes me a bit questionable.
Who is he?
He's a American writer. He's a very prolific writer. I don't know. I don't know how you would describe him, but he's known for being a very, very good writer. Kind of conservative. Kind of Henry Rollins without the music.
Right. Okay. What intense?
Yeah, that level of intensity, and just straight talking. But I've heard shitty things about him as well. So
there's always these things that exist about everyone.
I mean, Jordan Peterson's a Christian. I mean, can you believe it?
No, I can't, to be honest.
Terrible liar. So yeah, it's something I'm kind of interested in.
No, it's good to hear these. It's always funny, the Scottish history as well, because we have a long lineage of history, but we don't at the same time.
Yeah.
Like North America, the peoples the recent history is not that much. It's only been 300 years, but civilization's been there for like thousands of years.
Exactly.
And they have this long sort of, I think some places it goes back as like 11 or 12,000 years.
Native
and
American
Scotland was, during the Ice Age was completely covered. So any sort of clues of what happened sort of around the Ice Age are gone. You know, there was Scotland was completely covered.
Somebody's been reading Fingerprints of the Gods.
No, I just mean that in general. And
no,
I have read it.
Yeah, it's really good. It's a really good book, isn't it?
I read it when I was where was I? I was in Austria, and I read it. I got it on an audiobook. I'm an audiobooker generally.
That's fair enough. Yeah, me too.
Unless it's a great book, like I got for Christmas. Do you know Noma?
No.
There's a restaurant in Copenhagen, and it's this guy who I think is a Michelin star restaurant called Noma, and it's world famous. But he does all sort of local ingredients, but he does them in a weird sort of like goes way scientific in it. He was experimenting with mummified deer to like over 12 years and pets, and he was serving that. And then he finds like wild garlic on the beach and serves asparagus and all this sort of thing. But he's like in got a book that he wrote about fermentation, the processes that they use in their foods, because they're really into the fermentation, the Scandinavians. But yeah, it's cool. So that one I'll read. But I do the audio thing a lot. Yeah. It just because I'm driving so much, it's so much easier to read them.
See, I don't drive. I travel. I take the bus and trains. So
terrible. So what have you got to say about the Scottish rail service? Because obviously there's a lot of issues with it recently because they revamped themselves, and then were like all the lines were closed after they opened up.
Exactly.
Was that correct?
I don't know about that. I know they
and there's calls to sort of nationalise it again.
Renationalise it, which is a fucking renationalise.
That's some poster slogan, isn't it? Renationalise.
It's like fucking George Bush, the misunderestimated kind of. It's like
one of his many classic lines.
Unrenationalized.
We'll get these terrorist killers.
Terrorist
killers.
The Tourist Festival.
Now watch this drive. That's my favourite line by him.
Watch this drive. ScotRail generally pretty unimpressed with their service.
And extortionate as well. And then they started charging more.
30 fucking quid to get here today. 30 quid, mate.
And how many miles is it? Like 40 miles?
Not enough for 30 quid. Nah, mojo. It's there and back, so return ticket, but stuff.
Yeah.
But it's like an hour on the train, an hour and 10 minutes or something. It's way more than any other country in Europe has to spend, or in or out of Europe has to spend.
What's the problem though? Like, why is it that way?
This is the analogy I always use, and anyone who has sat with me on a train when I've been in the right mood to say so, this is the analogy I'll use. If I had the only sweetie shop in town, and I was the only one that was allowed to sell sweeties, wouldn't be that bothered about the quality sweeties I was selling. I would just make sure that I was selling sweeties.
And at a higher price.
Exactly. So there's no competition for ScotRail.
Okay.
I routinely am standing on the train, even on services where they've added an extra carriage.
It's insane, man.
It's not the word. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's standing on the train isn't that.
No,
it's not. No. But when you consider the amount of money that we spend on travel per year, I think it's about time we can ask for a better service. I'm also
so for something, the website is complete dog shit. Like it's like they don't want you to buy a ticket. Like it just completely diverts you, and you can't find like what is after the next one. You have to just specifically find. And then they're charging more after the revamp, and they're still like just terrible service. Nothing's on time either. You wouldn't mind it.
I actually have some serious concerns.
Oh, I thought you were going to say gossip there. I was like,
it could potentially be some gossip as well.
Who died?
Nobody died. I know somebody who used to work for Abellio, I believe, not ScotRail, Abellio. Okay. I asked them, as I'm wont to do, how do ScotRail report their times, their train times? I'm kind of this way minded. This is kind of not too dissimilar from what I do for a living. So working out how software works is just kind of interesting to me, right?
Right.
If I remember correctly, it's largely driver reporting.
Okay.
So I've made it. I've replied. I've sent this to ScotRail a couple of times where I've been waiting for the train at Glasgow Central. I've checked the app on my phone, and the app has said the train has left. And the train's still there. And I've mentioned it to them, and they say, there's sensors on the track that activate. So once the train goes over those sensors that think it's left, now that was an adequate explanation because the train hadn't moved.
Yeah.
And it had actioned that while the train hadn't moved because I was updating the app because I wanted to catch them out. But apparently, according to this person, a lot of the figures come from driver reporting. So that they're just trusting the driver to say they arrived on time, which makes me worry that their reporting is inaccurate and is deliberately faked to give them
the impression that they're on time and they're running.
Considering the official figures they've got for how on time they run, really makes me fucking worry.
That's so bad as well. I mean, if you're a driver and you're late, are you going to give the time that you're actually, you're driving, or are you going to fudge it a little bit so you look better?
So that's out in the public sphere now. That's a conversation I've had. If anyone wants to contact me and tell me that's not the case with proof, with like, I'm not accepting anything short of
a driver,
or some
a train driver.
I'm not taking your fucking word for this.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's out in the public sphere, and I have some major concerns. And
I feel like we need some sort of Scottish Elon Musk, just to sort of completely revamp all these technologies in Scotland, because they're just so far behind. The whole rail system in the UK is based on like 150-year-old Victorian technology.
Indeed.
And I think that is something that leads to the sort of all the delays and all the tracks and it just been a terrible service in general.
Indeed. And I don't know. And
when their websites from the Victorian era as well.
Potentially, it runs on fucking steam. So I'm pretty convinced that there's some sort of chicanery, shenanigans going on there.
Yes.
Shenanigans going on there.
Talking about shenanigans, I don't know if you had a chance to check it out, but I was watching Skint Britain, and it was this documentary series. And I think it's a 3-part or a 4-part. The first one,
2-part.
Okay. The first one came out, and it was essentially about the people who are living in the universal credit, which is a British thing.
Yep.
It sounds like universal income. That's why
people. Sorry, guys.
Because it was supposed to replace. Are you getting up?
I've got cramp in my legs.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, dude.
It was supposed to replace the benefit system in the same way that basic income would, but it was a completely terrible idea and it wasn't working, and it had none of the same benefits. It just was universal in name only. It wasn't something that was actually working.
Well, I mean, some of they don't touch on the finer intricacies of how it works during the program.
Yeah. Did you watch it?
I did. Yeah, I took notes on it.
Cool.
I feel as though.
Do you want to come in a wee bit? Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I changed my position. I feel as though, I mean, I've never been on unemployment benefits before, but my understanding of it is you have to keep a diary of the efforts you make to look for jobs.
In general, when it was the benefit system.
It just sounds like the same system, but they're actually enforcing the rules now.
And I think they've become stricter, though. I think
it's overly strict. The one takeaway I had from it was that there should be a lower cap on how much you can be sanctioned to. I think.
And there was the 5-week waiting gap, which killed a lot of people.
Exactly. I think that's pretty ridiculous as well. I can understand it maybe takes 5 weeks to process it, just because of the sheer number of people that are going on, but I feel as though
they should have things in place. If you're changing it, you can't leave it for 5 weeks. That's something the government's there to stop these things from happening. It shouldn't have been 5 weeks.
Exactly. I mean, I think the government has an obligation to whatever changes they make. They have an obligation to make it as non-disruptive as possible. And I feel as though they're not doing that with universal credit. Those are the two things I really took away from it. Was there should be a lower cap to the limits you can be sanctioned to, and they should be doing a better job of implementing it. And I feel as though this is it's kind of like the rape clause. Broadly, the whole notion that there should be a limit to how many kids you can have when you're on benefits. Broadly, I agree with that. Yeah. I just think the government are being way too pragmatic about how they're implementing it and stuff like that. I think it's the show makes a good. I think the one thing I liked about it was it kind of the way it's made. It kind of lets you impose your own feelings about benefits on the show, because it's fairly unbiased.
Yeah, it doesn't really go into the mechanics or who's running it or what's happening. It just shows the people on the street dealing with the system. Yeah. That's it.
I thought it was a bit tone deaf having Frank Gallagher doing the commentary. But now I think about it, I think that's probably the same kind of idea, letting you put your own kind of spin on it. Because Frank Gallagher, obviously from Shameless, was
on Benefits.
On
famously.
Benefits, are known for being a lager lout. You know, like would take all manner of steps to make sure he was still getting his state benefits and to avoid working.
That's quite funny actually that they did that.
Yeah, I feel as though
it must be intentional.
Yeah.
Like I had a bit of a back and forth on Instagram with the guy that made the documentary.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I posted about it on Instagram and I just put the hashtag in there, Skint Britain.
Yeah.
And the guy, I'm not sure what level he was involved in. Could be just like directing or producing or something like that. Was commenting on it saying, you know, I'm glad you appreciate it. This is something that we have to get into people's faces that this is something that's not working. Did you say that you know someone that's
I do.
Been on it?
I wasn't able to get a comment from them, but broadly their take on it's pretty good.
I guess it's like there's some systems like TalkTalk, you know, the phone company and the broadband company. If they have like some great reviews online, when I was trying to find my someone to provide me with internet, I went with TalkTalk first because it's cheap. Generally, people say it's great, blah blah blah. That's only if you don't have any problems with the system. Yeah. The minute that you have a problem, you go through several countries to try and get someone to just fix a problem. There was no notes taken. It was a whole fucking thing, and it was the worst experience I've ever had with a company. You know, just a terrible company. Obviously, different time zones meant that it was different call centers that you were calling. When I was talking about BT, it was just something that they didn't have any concept of, so it wasn't something that I could, because BT own all the lines in the UK, so they had to deal with them, and it just wasn't something. So I'm digressing, but what I'm trying to say is some things can be great until you have a problem, and then it's so hard to get it fixed because they're built just to not have problems sometimes. But then the minute you encounter something, no one knows how to figure out how to fix it. Like that lady that was getting diagnosed with cancer or something like that, and then she needed to go on a special diet, a high protein diet,
which doesn't necessarily mean you're going to incur extra costs. It just means you need to buy a different food.
Yeah, you have to you have to buy more.
But she could have had some nutritional advice from the doctor and stuff like that. Yeah,
and she was trying to find some way for the benefit system to sort of
give her more money, so she could buy different food, which is fair enough. I can see how that would be.
But she would be in that. With the old system, she would have gotten a crisis loan. Yeah, and that's.
But she's not saying she could still apply for a crisis loan. Is that not?
I'm not sure how.
Well, one case I was quite interested in was the guy with the low sight. So I've kind of written a little. I've not written all down because I didn't want to say it.
The guy that was like his dad loaned him 150 for like a week.
Yeah, 250 till
like pounds.
Yeah, exactly.
Not 150. Like
£2.50.
That's crazy.
But his situation was interesting. His was the one situation where it was the one they were the most candid about, the one they were most open about. Sorry, 2 seconds, I've got that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, you are pretty ill.
I've got
it's got the runs. And there's no
cold right now. And there's no avoiding it. Still came through in the middle of this. But that guy's interesting because obviously the government gave him a special contact lenses. His claim is that he can't wear them for long periods of time. So there's a viable solution to his problem, but there's something in the way. I can understand why the government would think he's just saying that, because at the end in that situation, he was able to get the contact lenses and doesn't have to work. So I can see why the government would take, and obviously he also didn't have a phone because it was too expensive to buy a phone and requested everything done by mail. I don't know how feasible that is for them. Sorry, this is getting me back.
It has to be that has to be something that you have to allow, because you have to understand that these people that they're interacting with are on the low end of the economic scale.
But there's a solution to that problem. I guess the inference is that you would have to go
Basic
to the
universal income.
I'm still convinced that's a good idea.
Why?
When last time I was on with Kieran, we spoke about the trial in Toronto, Vancouver.
Yes.
That was short.
But they shut it short. Yeah.
The one in Finland managed to go all the way through and failed spectacularly, apparently.
What happened?
I can't remember exactly. I've yet to look into it. It's on. It's literally on my list of things to look into.
Yeah. It'd be interesting just to hear,
but apparently it didn't work out the way they expected it to.
But that's why they do these things, so they can adapt them. You know, it's never straight up ideas, never just in their raw form.
But it could just be the concept as a core is
totally
today's world.
I'd assume it's more down to how it's working and how much maybe.
I mean, I think I mentioned this in the last time I was on. I'm pretty sure that the job description of driver is the most common job description of all jobs, and it's the one that's feasibly going to be
the one that's going to
done
be
with
missing.
automation, exactly, because driverless cars. But people can retrain for new jobs and stuff like that. So I don't think automation is going to be a big, paradigm shift. As big of a paradigm shift. I think we've been saying this since the Industrial Revolution that it's going to all be on machines soon. I just think we're always going to be having this discussion, and it's never going to get to a point where.
I think it's happening though. Like I have a feeling.
I think we've been saying that as long as the Industrial Revolution.
But it has been like jobs have been sort of going out
at the state. But I mean, what's your understanding of the rate?
Well, I don't know the numbers actually, but I mean, I assume that you've obviously looked at numbers. Yeah.
No, I don't. I'm saying that, but that's what I know. I don't understand about it. So
one of the things I'm always disappointed about with politicians is the sort of the repackaging of things and trying to like. Their main aim is always more jobs. It's like, how can you guarantee more jobs? Like, there's the jobs are jobs, like it's just.
Are you speaking about the Green New Deal?
But it's a silly thing to guarantee. It's like
government will give you a job.
We'll find a job for you somewhere, and it's like, but if they're not existing, like you can't just come up with new types of work that don't exist.
And there is obviously a shortage of work in Hartlepool. There's no. There's like they said there was the chicken factory, there was the cake factory, there was a place people could work to go.
That's one of the things that I think, especially where I come from, Blairgowrie, there's the local sort of how am I going to put this? The thing that people do in the summer when I was younger was to go and pick strawberries and raspberries. Yeah. They still do that on the farms on a bigger scale, but it's usually just foreigners that are coming in and picking, which is great. That brings in a lot of money to that town because they then go and spend in Tesco's and whatever. Although Tesco's is not great to be spending your money in. So it's kind of skips the town centre really. But I always think that the people that don't want to work in Blairgowrie and are in the job centre while they're looking for work, they should just send them to these local types of things.
Well, this happened in Arbroath in the summer.
Smokies.
No. Smokies don't
Junkies.
Smokies don't grow on trees. No, there was literally a berry
Sorry,
farmer.
you got like a bit of
something.
Yeah, you got just a bit. There it is. It's in your beard now.
Thank you, dude.
It's a little bit.
A bit of tissue. That's
He's been taking loads of coke and it's coming out his nose now.
About the fucking tree. No, it was a guy from Arbroath, a berry farmer from Arbroath, had posted on Facebook saying, "Listen, they're going rotten on the vine. We need people to come pick them because there's no migrants because of Brexit."
Yeah.
So and
it's a big issue in Scotland,
and it's people, and this is the thing. People will often lament that there's foreigners taking our fucking jobs.
Nah.
Well, there were no foreigners, and there was berries no getting picked. So shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I think there was something like 300,000 grand's worth of fruit just lying on the vines and just weren't picked, and the farmers were losing those.
Exactly.
Because no one was wanting to come over and pick them.
Exactly.
But I think those those towns and cities should work with those sort of local guys that are providing these work and just send them there. There's always going to be a percentage of person that just is not made for working.
Doesn't want to work. And
there's 7 billion people in the world. There's going to be whatever percentage of it is just they're not built for working. They're never going to work, and it's not something that interests them.
I think you should have the right to not work. I don't think, I mean, it comes into kind of my own kind of personal politics where I would never want to get to the point where it comes into state violence and it becomes, you have to work or else, because that's what a lot of these arguments come down to. What if I don't? What if I don't? What if I don't? We'll fucking make you. I think people should have the right not to work. You should be able to just say, and I think that would eliminate a lot of the tension in the situation when it comes to benefits. If you could just say, I don't want to fucking work. I don't want to. You should accept a lower level of existence. There's certain expectations that you shouldn't have in that respect if you just are saying I refuse to work. But I think it's an option you should have.
It's viable.
I don't think a lot of people could be that honest with themselves, never mind the government, but I think it's...
And there's not, like, people just think, it's one of the arguments with basic income, universal income, is that people just will, in masses, not work. They'll just give up any form of work. But
it's possible.
But you know how you feel, and I know how I feel after not working for a week. It's all right if you're on holiday and you're away somewhere, but if you're at home, you drive yourself crazy and you feel like you're not being productive.
Speak for yourself. I'm a homebody.
But maybe you don't like your job, maybe.
No, I like my job. It's just I don't like the whole getting up at 9, coming home, leaving at 5.
But that's something you can change.
Getting up at 9 would be fucking great. Getting in for 9.
That's something you can change.
I know, and there are jobs I could do that would be different from that, and I could conceivably do the work I do now on a different schedule.
Yeah,
which is
4-hour work week. You could do it at home.
I could
remotely.
Yeah, and I have done that in the past. Okay, and I'm very productive. But I just don't. I don't know. I feel it though. If it wasn't for the lack of money, if I somehow came into a shitload of money and never had to work again, I don't think I'm one of these people that would drive themselves insane for having nothing to do. I'm pretty good at keeping myself occupied, and like I said, I've got a fucking to-do list of stuff to look up just because I need to satisfy that itch. There's like I need to research these things and
I'm the same.
Find an end,
like when I hear something or someone talks about something, I end up going on a long Wikipedia or YouTube, wormhole, just trying to figure out what these things are.
Indeed. What I find up doing is I go through the sources and read all the fucking sources as well.
Oh, really? You're a source person?
Because you can get like a lot of other extra information from there and stuff, and then I try and find it if there's a book written about something. I try and find it online or something. My limit is when I get to the point where I'm actually spending money on research papers. I've only
Have you actually done that
once?
For what?
The notion that this is controversial, very controversial, and I'm not too sure how I feel about it. I'm still working out the notion that domestic violence may not be as gendered as people make it.
Okay.
The notion that domestic violence may come down a lot to mutual combat, and also domestic violence within homosexual relationships, well, gay and lesbian relationships. I was just really, really interested in it.
Okay.
I'd heard some people say some interesting stuff on a podcast, and then I'd heard a rebuttal to that podcast and didn't know who to believe, and I thought, fuck, they're both citing the same study. Let's research it, because I was really looking to see how well the study was done. Like what are the, because it's always the sample size. It's like this whole the 1 in 4 figure. The 1 in 4 women on campuses are sexually assaulted. The way that data was collected is really fucking dishonest. There's no way you can, even the subjects of that volunteers of that study disagreed with some of the language that was being used at the time.
Right. Okay.
So
and I think this is very symptomatic of what's going on, because there's, like this show, there's a lot of podcasts out there where people cite statistics, but you could find any statistics to support your own theory. Anyone can do that. You could do that, and it can support you from any angle.
Indeed.
It's just how unless you actually read into it in depth, there's no way to know that it actually correlates to what you're saying either. It's just it sounds the same. Exactly. And it's if you don't research behind what's actually being said, people can just even though the podcast world's great, there's a lot of people talking and there's a lot of chat, but it feels like there's not a lot of resolution either. There's not. Okay. There's never. It's the way I'll sort of analogize it is. Was it the ghost shows? Where you watch the whole episode, great. Scary, whatever, but you never ever, there's nothing ever found. They never find anything.
Because there's nothing to fucking find.
And it's great, and it's gritty, and it's chewy in the middle and fucking brilliant, but there's no conclusion to it.
Yeah.
There's nothing, and it's the same with a lot of the chat. But then, I don't know.
I mean, my whole thing is I've been of this mind for quite a while. I've just been able to articulate it better recently. I want to be right, but I don't mind being wrong. I can't be right all the time. And if you can prove to me that something I've asserted or said is wrong, or an opinion I have doesn't make any sense or has a logical fact, I'll swivel on a fucking dime. Like that Tim Vine. What's the ginger Australian dude?
Oh,
Singing
yeah.
dude, eyeliner. That dude. He has a big bit about, it's called Storm, and it's about how he meets a girl at a dinner party and she's speaking about holistic medicine.
Tim Minchin.
That's the ticket. And he says...
that's the ticket?
Yeah, sorry.
What do you think, he's a ticket? Or?
No, just that. Just something like that. But he says, I'll swivel on a fucking dime if you can prove me wrong. And I'm very much of the same mind. I mean...
Yeah. It's hard for a lot of people, and especially in academics and academia. Yeah. It's hard for people to sort of change on something that they've built their whole career on.
Because they have a professional, financial investment in what they've said. I mean,
so that's how they can perpetuate their ideas that maybe at the very core they know is wrong eventually, because something's came out, and even then you'll just believe it and and try and force it onto people thinking it's still, and you got tenure and whatever. So
exactly.
But yeah, like you say, like I have no reason not to just change my mind if someone presents something to me, and I've been saying, I want to be right. I for a number of years I was almost too scared to say my opinions for a long time, because I didn't want to come across as opinionated on something that was maybe wrong, and then I looked like an idiot. Yeah. So for a long time I wouldn't even try and get my opinions across, because I just thought ultimately someone's going to come out with something that would say, well, this, that, and the next thing is wrong, and then it's stupid. But you just got to take that chance. This is what discourse is about.
Exactly. And some people are just better at articulating how they feel about certain things. Yeah. I mean, that's I think the majority of the people on YouTube who are in any way popular are very good at articulating how they feel about something. I mean, a lot of people will read a news article or hear about the ISIS girl. Yeah. They'll hear that situation. They know how they feel about it, but they can't quite articulate it.
No, totally.
I think some people are very, very good at doing that, and that's how you get.
I think that's why I admire Laura, who's been on before, because she's very good at she's able to sort of take what she's thinking and have the words and the level of intelligence to be able to just say it, and in a way that's sort of able for everyone else to sort of digest it as well.
I mean, yeah.
And it's great to have that sort of mind as well. Like if I was able to just articulate in the same way she would, that she's that kind of level where you see people on YouTube doing the same thing. Like they're able to take something that comes out in the news and they're able to just regurgitate what they actually think and how.
Exactly. Or they can just, there's some sort of, everyone can sense the bullshit in something. It's just someone able to put it in a concise, entertaining way as well. That's half the battle.
Yeah. 2 seconds, actually. Yeah.
What time?
I think we're actually just about there, right?
We're just about there, yeah. I'm feeling progressively worse as we go on.
So is there anything you want to... Was there anything you had in your mind that you wanted to talk about?
No, I completed Red Dead.
No way.
Night. Yeah, I finished the epilogue last night. Took over my life for about 4 weeks. Arthur Morgan is probably one of the best characters I have ever experienced.
Man,
there is a sadness in my fucking... And I played a high honor playthrough.
Yeah.
There is a fucking... Yep. I don't know.
I was the same. I got the best ending because I just had I think it was the highest honor.
I maxed out my honor just toward, and I'd almost fucked it up because I killed a horse in the last battle, because there was a guy quite a while, and I was like, fuck. So I thought, I'm not gonna cheese it. I'm just gonna take it and getting killed.
Man, it's so good though.
But yeah, I don't know what it is. There's elements of the story that I can kind of see. I think maybe you can see in yourself, because you kind of impose yourself on. I read an interesting thing about Arthur Morgan last night. It was about how people, when they see people playing Red Dead, they'll see Arthur and they'll go, that's not my Arthur. People get the same thing when they play The Witcher 3, apparently. They see Geralt and they go, that's not my Geralt.
So it's when they see someone else playing it, it's not... Yeah, that's so weird.
I know, because my Arthur had a big beast and tash and, short beard and that. I really like that. That was a cool aesthetic. But I don't know,
Great game, though.
I know, I'm going to play it again, definitely. Because I was more focused on the story. I was kind of jumping from mission to mission instead of doing all the hunting and stuff like that.
I think Rockstar are getting to that level with their games where their actual in-world sort of mechanics are sort of, they're making you feel like what you're doing plays on your conscience.
Yes,
a little bit. So
but even the stuff that was out of your control,
your real world self has a huge input on this game. I tried to do it, play the game how I would play the world today, my world, you know, and I tried to do it like that.
Well, I'm a big headcanon guy. I like having, like, when I'm playing these games, to get in the role play element of the game. I quite like that.
It was so sad. I couldn't believe. If you've not played it yet, then screw you.
Spoiler.
If you don't want to hear spoiler. When Arthur died, man.
Well, when he caught TB.
Yeah, I know, because it was like, I was googling like, when did the cure for TB come around? Just so like I was like, because I was like, there's no way he's gonna survive this. He'd go to like Arizona where it's warm or something. Doc, what's his name, Holiday from Tombstone. He had TB and he was fucked. There's no way to like cure it, and I was like,
your lungs into fucking soup. But it just really, like, Arthur Morgan's story just really stuck with me. Then reflecting on Red Dead 1 and all the things that happened there, I kind of want to go back and play it again. But I played it so much when I first came out. But I don't know.
It's kind of cool that you got to be John at the end as well. That was spoiler.
And you can continue to play him as the game's over. But I just figured our game's art conversation, it's fucking dead. Games are art. I'm sorry, that game is fucking art. There's, I don't know how many hours I put into it, still finding new stuff.
It's great.
The first thing that really blew my mind is, like, there's like, whose footprints are these in Metal Gear Solid 1, and seeing the light shining through the ears in Red Dead
that is
2.
amazing.
It's like, fucking hell.
Who the fuck came up with that? That was something I didn't even need in my game, and it's like when they did it, it was amazing.
So it's like, is this why you delayed it by an extra 2 years? Is that why? That wasn't 2 years. It was like 8
Is that why
months.
people were under the table sleeping and working fucking 3-year weeks?
Exactly. Hulk Hogan years.
But it was great. There's so many, just like, how do you even start? Like, where do you even start with a game like that? When you start making it, how do you make it so layered in a way that's sort of viable? I assume that you could do that and it would just be all disjointed and wouldn't fit together really, but they've done it in it's a world.
I think they did a lot of good work. I mean, Red Dead 1 still holds up today graphically. Yeah. And it's on a previous gen console and it still looks fucking amazing. Yeah. So I think they did a lot of the groundwork in terms of the aesthetics and the story, because the story is very compelling as well. But I think just
the music,
because a lot of it was there in the music as well. I'm pretty sure the opening theme to it, the one you'll usually hear when you first start the game, I'm pretty sure that sounds too similar to Wicked Game by Chris Isaac.
Really?
Yeah, listen, next time you hear it, it's very similar to Chris Isaac. You play guitar as well, you'll be able to hear it. It's fucking quite similar. I thought I catch myself singing it whenever I hear it. But yeah, Red Dead Redemption 2, fucking one of the best games I've ever played, and I'm a huge Fallout fan, huge Bethesda fan anyway. For 76, I'm waiting for better things.
But there's just the layers of it. It's just, I guess they work with separate teams to sort of come up with things inside, but it's just there's so many hours that have went into making this game.
You could have put a couple more hours into the menu system. Annoying as fuck. I know it should be difficult to change your guns when you're riding a horse. Yeah. But that menu system does my nutting. And the fact that you use triangle to, because like what?
Did you ever punch your horse?
No, but I strangled a bunch of people while trying to get on my horse. I don't understand how I have to hold the square button down to do certain things, like to pick up like a potion, tonic. You hold square to pick it up, right? To strangle a guy, you just tap triangle. That's what I don't get. I figure like, let me hold, because the amount of times I had to reload my save just because I strangled somebody. Like, for fuck's sake, it's just from pressing triangle. It's ridiculous. I'm looking forward to playing a low honor playthrough now, because now I get to do all things I want to do.
Yeah, but, I don't know. I don't want to go through it again because of
what's going to happen.
I feel like the way I played it through is the way I wanted to play it, and I don't think I would get anything more from it, because I know Arthur dies, and it's like shit.
Well, now I've
I felt genuinely sad.
Oh, me too. It's like a pit. It's like,
I was like, no.
I know.
When I found out you had TB, when you stumble to the doctors and you're coughing.
Well, I kind of figured it was happening as soon as that guy sneezed on me, but I was. That's how I got this sick. No more joke. But yeah,
I was hoping they maybe had an option where you don't die, but there's no other way they could have ended it.
But that's the thing with Red Dead 1 as well. That's how Red Dead 1 finishes, with John Marston dying. I've got a good idea of how I'd like to see Red Dead 3 happen as well. Okay. I'd quite like Red Dead 3 to be a war game.
Like in World War One.
Yeah. Because Red Dead 1 finishes with Jack Marsden avenging his father's death. Yeah. And then he's kind of free to roam.
Gunslinger.
Cool if they did like a Dirty Dozen kind of a deal. You know?
Yeah, that'd be really good actually.
Really good. But, you know, just saying, I work in the industry, Rockstar. If you want me, my rates are competitive.
But where else could they go with it? Like, what other things could they do instead of World War One?
Well, I don't know.
That's all. I mean, unless you take it to another location, then it's just...
Dutch Van der Linde said it best. Our world is over, John. You know, that's true, you know.
They've just I went on a complete... like cowboy movie after like a complete like wormhole with Tombstone and guns, you know, gunslingers.
Silverado, you ever seen that?
Silverado's brilliant. And one of the things that's sort of thematic and almost in the background in a lot of these things is sort of that dying breed of gunslinger, which was very short-lived in it anyway.
Yeah.
It was a sort of like it's a weird thing, the whole cowboy thing, because it was just a short period of time in history, and it was something that didn't really exist up until that point, and then quickly just died out with civilization. The sort of the West, not the West, the industrial sort of revolution coming in, and so the way they encapsulated it in that game was just beautiful.
I know, and
you know, they were almost running away from their own sort of their own end.
Indeed, well, constantly running away from the encroaching world, and then that's where Red Dead 1 starts. You know, there's a lot of. I think it starts with a conversation on a train, and John Marston's like, "Fuck, man, they're speaking about the way I used to live."
What was your sort of least favorite part of it?
The menus.
Okay.
Or
person.
I felt like it went on a bit too long. I felt as though from finding out Arthur had TB to him actually dying, I feel as though it had a bit of like Heat syndrome, the movie Heat, where it's just like the final bank job where Val Kilmer dies, and then the final scene, nothing happens in between Bart. As I said, I was kind of going from story to story anyway, but I just felt it became my playtime slowed down significantly around about that time. Just because I felt like I couldn't really justify Arthur going out into the grizzly fucking bears when he's dying in TB, you know. As much as I enjoyed it, but everything, the whole game, I really enjoyed. Even the menus. By the time I got used to them, ridiculous. And looking forward to playing even more. I'm looking forward to 100% in it and kind of finding all the and breaking it as well. I like to break games. I like to find the bugs, and you know, I've already seen some stuff online. I've got some ideas to how I might be able to do some stuff, but we'll see.
I think I'm moving on to the old master race because I'm upgrading my PC just now. That's why.
Yeah, your PC. Yeah, specify that.
I'm going to be white for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
This is why sort of taking my time in between podcasts because I'm just trying to get this new PC sorted out so I can do a bit more with video. I'm gonna get this wall sorted over here. I'm gonna get a wee studio, like a proper studio on the go. But yeah, so I'm trying to get this PC sorted so I can get on some great gaming.
Well,
do you game on PC?
I'm a PS4 player. Okay. I'm fairly casual. Like I said, I really only play Skyrim, Fallout 76. And Red Dead. I'm not a huge gamer. I don't have the time really. I'm too busy researching pointless shit, and you know, and just other stuff, reading and stuff.
I need something like you say. Like I need something that can hold my attention, like something like Red Dead Redemption. Fortnite, I get a little bit obsessed with, but still, it just doesn't really
I played a
do
lot.
anything.
I played a lot of Unreal Tournament when I was a kid, young teen. And then a bit when I moved out as well when I was about 18, and I think I've fried out that part of my muscle. I played Modern Warfare 3 for a bit. That's the last kind of game like that I've played before. I can see how addictive they are. I kind of I've kind of spent that part of my brain. I'm more into the role playing elements of games and stuff these days, and I like Skyrim and Fallout because you can be like, I'm gonna head in that direction.
Do you think they'll bring out something new in the way of Skyrim?
Probably. Elder Scrolls 6 is on the horizon. I hope it's single player. I'm pretty sure it will be single player.
I don't think I played Elder Scrolls. It was just Skyrim.
Yeah, the Oblivion. I never played Oblivion either. I've heard good things, and I probably will go and play it at some point. But it's very much like...
Oh, wait a minute. No, it wasn't Oblivion I played. It was Elder Scrolls. What was the last one?
So you have Elder Scrolls Online.
Okay.
And then before that was Skyrim.
Skyrim, yeah, that's the one I played.
Elder Scrolls is online's like a slightly different universe. It's like a Earth 1, Earth 2 kind of a situation. Then it was Skyrim. Before that was Oblivion. Before that was Morrowind. Before that was Daggerfall. I've only played Skyrim. I'm total fucking casual when it comes to this.
Have you played Spider-Man 4?
I haven't. Well, nothing beyond any kind of like 5 minutes mucking about with it.
It's a bit frustrating to begin with to try and get used to it. But some of the web slinging and some of the suits are unbelievable. The story's great. It's a little short one and it's brilliant. And the whole it's different from Red Dead Redemption. I think that's why I struggled with the graphics initially. It's but it's still banging. Like and the whole story about how some of the guys become the bad guys is very refreshing. Like it's good.
It's like a fresh take on it. I've seen like Dr. Octopus is a big part of it.
Yeah, that's like that's how you get to see like Peter works with them in the laboratory, and it's slightly different, but it's great. You know he's going to become like it's great.
I'm just kind of turned off by the Arkham based combat system. I'm never a big fan of that, but I will play it eventually. I'm never one for playing it. I mean, it took me. I basically didn't play Red Dead. I got it for Christmas. I didn't play it until. Way into January, just because I knew it was going to be a huge time sink. I knew I wasn't going to have the discipline to turn it off.
And you're a bit of a contrarian as well, probably, are you?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. I'm a Philistine, I trade. No, I don't know. I just knew it was going to be a huge thing, and I don't like to get wrapped into the hype of this stuff as well.
Well, we'll probably have to wrap that up there.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you for coming on, even though you're slightly ill at this point.
I'll survive.
More than slightly ill. And anyone that's listening, thanks again, and I will see you next week.
Thank you.